Hello, I am Christian Stevenson with the Mississippi State University Extension Service here in Hancock County. Happy to be joining you for another online presentation on horticulture. Really appreciate you being here today. If you are watching this on a recording on YouTube, thank you for being here as well. And if you have any questions, if you are watching on YouTube, down at the bottom, you're going to find the comments section. You can put questions in that comment section, and I will be very happy to answer those questions to the best of my ability. I will get a little notification when that question gets entered or when that comment gets entered, and I will do my best to get those questions answered as soon as possible. Of course, if you're here for the presentation live, you can just put those over in the chat area, and I will be happy to get to those as quickly as we can. Today, I want to talk to you about holiday plants. We are right about the middle of November right now. So we have several holidays that are coming up. And holidays are a great time to use plants as gifts, to use plants as decoration, to add some festivity to your table or just to the rooms in your house. Even outdoors, there are a lot of great things we can do with plants. To really add a lot to our experience of the holidays. Really bring a lot of color inside. You can just kind of see from this introductory picture that there are just a host of plants that will work really well throughout the holidays. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get started. I'm going to talk about probably the most significant holiday plant that all of us think of when we think about plants or trees for the holidays. And that's going to be the Christmas tree. That is certainly a big part of me growing up, is really enjoying putting up that tree inside. And I grew up with a live Christmas tree every year. So rather than having a plastic tree, we had a living tree. And I really, really want to promote people getting a live Christmas tree, or what I'm going to call a real tree, for a lot of reasons. One, they just look really nice. They're an excellent addition to the home, and the cost of it is really pretty reasonable. Not only that, but the experience of going out there and selecting your tree and bringing it home is just a big part of the holidays for me. So I find it very pleasant to just kind of go through the whole process of getting the tree and decorating the tree. I was really fortunate where I grew up. We had a lot of woods around, and there were some trees. We could actually go out and cut the trees right out of the woods. And that was just kind of a great part of Christmas as a young person. The other thing that I really want to mention about purchasing Christmas trees, purchasing real trees, there are Christmas tree farms here in Mississippi, and going out to that farm does two different things. One, it supports agriculture here in Mississippi. Growing Christmas trees is just part of agriculture, and supporting those local producers, keeping that money, here in our or wherever you are, keeping that money in your community. It's a sustainable way to have that Christmas tree. You can kind of think of it as being a renewable resource. And a lot of Christmas tree farms are engaged in agritourism. So in addition to having, Christmas trees that you can go and select out your tree, they have a lot of other activities that you and the kids can get involved in. They have hay rides, and they'll often have Santa there for the kids, and all sorts of other things going on that really makes, adding that Christmas tree into your holiday kind of a special event. So I really encourage people to do that. And I want to give you some guidance on some of the different kinds of trees that are out there. as well as some ways to care for your tree to make sure that you are going to keep it happy and healthy all the way throughout the holidays. So, of course, one of the first things, I always think of the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation movie and them going to go get that huge tree. You do want to make sure that the tree you get is going to fit the space that you have. So it's a really good idea to know what the height of your ceiling is going to be, before you go and purchase that tree. And remember, if you're going to put a star or something on the top of that tree, that is going to add some height to it. So kind of keep that in mind. If you have an 8-foot or a 9-foot ceiling, getting a 10-foot tree is not going to be a good plan unless you have a little vent hole that you can stick the top of the tree up into. So go ahead and measure your space. Those trees can look, and of course, measure the tree. The trees can look pretty small when you're out there under the open sky, but you want to maybe have a tape measure or something like that, just to be sure that you're getting a tree that's going to fit the space you have. You also want to keep in mind that in addition to measuring the height, you need to think about the width. A lot of them are, a lot of the trees are on a 10 or an 80% taper. So a tree that's going to be 10 foot tall is going to be 8 foot wide at the bottom. So that's going to be a pretty broad space. You don't want to have it eating the bookshelves or sticking half of the tree into the fireplace. So make sure it's going to fit the dimensions of the space that you have available for it. Also consider the decorations you're going to put on the tree. If all the decorations that you have are very light, you're going to have a few different options on what kind of tree that you get. But not all trees really tolerate having heavy decorations on them. And while we all have fond memories of the Charlie Brown Christmas tree, that might not be the look we're going for in our holiday. So we want to make sure that type of tree is going to be able to support the ornaments that we're going to put on it. Now, when we're actually selecting our tree, we've chosen what kind of tree we want to get. We've gone out to the Christmas tree farm, or we've gone out to the lot where they've got a bunch of Christmas trees. We want to make sure that tree is going to be really good and fresh. You're not going to have that problem at a Christmas tree farm. They will cut that tree right there for you. You literally cannot get it any fresher than that. But if you're at a lot, you want to make sure that tree is in really good condition. So one way you can do that is just kind of grasp gently at the needles on a branch and slowly slide your hand or run your hand across it. Those needles should not easily come off in your hand. If they do, that is a sign the tree is getting old, it's kind of drying out, and it's a good sign you really want to select a different tree. You should also make sure that the branches are really flexible. They should be able to bend easily. If they're brittle or they snap, again, that's a good sign the tree is not in good condition. And if you see a bunch of needles falling off around the outside of it, if the foliage isn't kind of a uniform good green color or blue color in some instances, depending on the plant species you're talking about, that may again be a sign that the plant's drying out. It also shouldn't have kind of a musty odor to it. The bark shouldn't be really wrinkly. And if you have any doubts about whether that tree is fresh, if it's ready to, if it's going to last a long time, it's perfectly okay to go and just select a different tree. And you may just need to go to a different lot. A lot of the people who bring down trees do a really great job, but you want to make sure that you're getting a good product for your money. And one of the ways you can do that is to make sure you ask a few questions. Just as I say, when you go to a nursery, you want to ask questions of the people at the nursery. Same way on the Christmas tree lot. Ask them a few questions, and some really good questions. First of all, what kind of trees are going to work really well down here? They're a lot of times they're bringing those trees in from somewhere really far up north. So, what trees work well here? And when did they get their trees in? So some lots are going to get all of those trees delivered right at the start of the season, and just sell that one lot of trees all the way through. Whereas others are going to have them delivered every few days or once a week. And so knowing how frequently, ideally you want a tree that has gotten here, as soon as possible, or as close as possible to when you purchase it, because you want that tree to be able to last all the way throughout the holidays. So there are a lot of different kinds of Christmas trees. Leyland cypress, which is also a pretty popular landscape plant here in Mississippi, makes a very good Christmas tree. It's one that we often do see at our local Christmas tree farms, so it's a really popular tree. It came about in kind of an interesting way. It is an accidental crossbreed between a Monterey cypress and Alaskan cedar. Happened absolutely by accident, but made a very attractive tree with a nice, really good conical shape and good color. Doesn't have a lot of an aroma to it. And a lot of us are familiar with this plant. It has shoots that branch really repeatedly and kind of have kind of a plane to them, with a really nice dark green color, and does work very well both as an indoor Christmas tree that's cut, or a cut tree, or a living tree that you can put outside. That's something that I do every year. Is I will get a living tree, or already have a living tree, and I will put decorations on it, and let it live outside so that we have a nice decoration at the front of the house. Really popular one. This is Arizona cypress. One of the varieties of these is particularly popular, called Carolina sapphire. There are several other varieties that are used as Christmas trees, like blue ice, but Carolina sapphire has been one that has been very successful. Really great, again, really conical shape to it, a nice pale green color. Leaves are really small, which gives it a really full look. And if it has cones, they're really small. Really nice odor or smell to it, or aroma, as the people like to tell me to use that word. Kind of a cross between lemon and mint, so it's really kind of a pleasant thing to have inside the house. Virginia pine, often not one that you are going to see here in Mississippi. It is difficult to grow here, and economically, it doesn't really work out very well as a product for our Christmas tree farms. But it does have really nice, sturdy branches. The needles are pretty short, so it's a good tree, but often when you see these, they have been brought in from outside of the state. Kind of similar, the eastern white pine has kind of a longer, flexible needle, a kind of a silver green color. Really does a good job of holding its needles on it, so it's going to last a good long time. Doesn't have a lot of odor to it, but if somebody might be sensitive to that, eastern white pine has a little bit less impact for people who have allergies. Unfortunately, if you put heavy ornaments on it, it does tend to kind of go Charlie Brown on you just a little bit, and have those those branches bend really heavily. Eastern red cedar, another really attractive tree. Really nice, dark, shiny green branches, or leaves rather. Really nice smell. The only problem with eastern red cedar is that it's kind of sticky. So whenever you're handling it, it's a good idea to have gloves, which I think makes it a great outside tree, but for indoor trees, I might consider something else. I don't want to, I have cats, and I don't know if I want to have to be picking the needles of the eastern red cedar off of them, and every evening. So those are the kinds of Christmas trees I'm going to talk about. There are quite a few others, particularly that are promoted as outdoor trees. But those are kind of the big ones. You will see some others brought in, different kinds of fir or yew or things like that that are used as Christmas trees, but they tend to be a little bit less common. Um, I do get asked, what is the best way to keep water in that cut tree? And the old style reservoir stand really is the best way to approach keeping that Christmas tree good and healthy throughout the entire time that you have it. Um, and you want to get that tree into water as fast as you possibly can. They're generally going to be okay if they've been out of water for about 6 to 8 hours. Any longer than that, we are going to have some issues. You want to make sure that the stand you get is right for the tree that you're using. For two reasons. One, you want it to have enough weight and mass to be able to hold that tree up really comfortably. And the weight of water is significant in that. The other thing is you want to make sure that you're providing enough water to keep that tree, drawing that water up to the leaves. And a good rule of thumb is for every inch of stem diameter of that tree, you want a quart of water. So if the tree is 4 inches in diameter, you're going to want 4 quarts of water in that stand in order to make sure that we are keeping adequate water to be drawn up into that plant and keep it fresh. There are all sorts of recommendations um, on care for trees and what you need to do, what special magic potion you need to make to put in that reservoir stand. Plain tap water is going to be the absolute best for you. You don't need to add anything to it. None of that is really necessary. Plant just needs to maintain that water. It is important to not bruise the area where the tree is cut. You want to make sure that you keep the bottom of that tree, particularly the water conducting cells right around the outside, really need to be as healthy as possible. If the tree has been out of water for a little while, you want to make a fresh cut down at the bottom. We do the exact same things with cut flowers. We get cut flowers home. We cut them a little bit more to, kind of get fresh cells down at the bottom there. So if you just cut about a 1/2 inch thick disc from the base down at the bottom, when you put it into the stand, you will be giving the tree a good bit of help. And you can do that with a regular hand saw or chainsaw if you got one. Make the cut as clean as you can, but just perpendicular to that stem axis or basically flat with the base of the tree. You do not need to, if you have to whittle the sides of the trunk down to fit a stand, you're removing all of those cells that would be able to take up water. So that's not a good practice. If you have that problem, you just need to get a bigger stand. And it's also not necessarily drilling a hole in the bottom of the tree also does not improve water uptake. So it's not necessary to do that. You really just want to leave the base of that stand. Other than that 1/2 inch that you cut off the bottom, just leave it the way it was. Do keep the tree, you don't want to put the tree right next to the fireplace. You don't want to put the tree right next to a vent where it's going to have really hot air from the heater and dry air coming in, because all of that can promote the tree drying out more quickly. And the more, the cooler you keep the room, the more you're going to slow down that drying process. It's going to consume water a lot less, and again, stay fresh a lot longer. Some little notes about safety. You always want to make sure you inspect your lights before you put them on the tree. You don't want any frayed wires. Even if you have a fake Christmas tree, you don't want frayed wires hanging up. Don't overload your electrical circuits. Make sure you have enough current and are being safe in your use of electricity. You know, turn off the lights when you're going to bed or if you're leaving the house. Um, Use lights that produce low heat. You know, a lot of the lights we use are LED now, and so they're a lot more efficient in how they use electricity, and they just don't generate the heat that the old incandescent bulbs use. And you can get them in pretty much any shape that you might imagine. And just keep an eye on the tree and make sure that it's staying fresh. If it started to dry down, you want to get it out of the house. And um, I think all of us have been taught this, but you know, certainly you want to say you do not want to burn any part of a Christmas tree in a wood stove or in a fireplace. They have a tendency to pop and throw sparks, and that is not something you want to do inside your house. I've seen a couple of great ways that you know different places have approached disposal of Christmas trees at the end of the season. Some municipalities and counties have a program where they go out and they pick up Christmas trees and they'll take them off to be thrown away safely. My absolute favorite, if you have a bunch of neighbors that you get along with, you know, after the holidays, you know, maybe around New Year's, you can make yourself a big bonfire with your Christmas trees. Follow all the fire safety protocols when you do that. But not only is it a great end of the holiday, it's a great way to get the community together around the holidays as well. All right, so those were the comments about Christmas trees. And so now I get to talk about some of the other great plants that we can use throughout the holidays. Poinsettias are a perennial favorite, one that people really enjoy throughout the holidays. There's just so much variety in colors that we see out there. And you know, some of that variety comes from dyeing the bracts of the plant. Some of that just comes from some really interesting varieties that have been bred. They've been doing some poinsettia trials at the South Mississippi Branch Experiment Station. Some of the master gardeners have been involved in evaluating some of those poinsettia varieties. And there are just some really great ones out there. And poinsettias make a wonderful gift. They make a wonderful addition to the house. Just bring in a lot of color. They can last for months. And really how long they're going to last for you is going to be dependent on when you purchase them, what variety they are, and how you treat that plant. What you do want to look for is you do want to check the maturity of the plant when you purchase it. Of course, the big colorful thing we see on the plant are the bracts or their modified leaves. The flower is actually that little yellow bit right at the center. And you want to make sure that, you know, that those flowers are there. You know, ideally, they haven't quite opened yet. But if they look slightly swollen, or you know, if that cup is showing some nectar, that tells you that that's a mature flower. As long as those flowers are still there, that plant's going to stay healthy for a good long time, and just bring a lot of color into the holidays. One issue with poinsettias, often you'll see them, you know, kind of wrapped in a sleeve when you purchase them. Poinsettias do tend to be kind of brittle, really easy to break those stems off. So you know, give them a close look when you're purchasing and make sure they haven't been damaged. And when you are removing that sleeve, do so really carefully. Get a good, you know, sharp pair of shears or something like that, or tear it very gently. But you just don't want to yank that off of there because again, those stems can break and really ruin the attractiveness of the plant. Poinsettias do like indirect light. They suffer a little bit if you put them right in the direct sun. You know, they tend to like the temperatures that we like inside the house. 72 degrees is kind of room temperature for most of us, a little bit cooler sometimes. And then going down to about 60 degrees at night is really going to be the best. Like any house plant, you want to keep them away from vents just to avoid those sudden temperature changes. If you are moving them around, you know, if you're giving them as a gift, keep them covered. Don't overwater, you know, that's primarily just to avoid that same problem with breaking. And, just don't overwater them. You can kind of pay attention to the same rule we always use for houseplants. You can just stick your finger down into the soil, and if it feels moist, the plant's okay. If it feels dry, you need to give it some water, and that's just kind of a kind of a ballpark way to approach watering those houseplants. A lot of things you'll say will say that poinsettias are poisonous to pets, and while certainly they taste awful, I was foolish enough to try that one day, just kind of because I was having a conversation with someone about it. They do not taste very good at all. Um, they can irritate the stomach a little bit, so your pet may act a little upset after eating a bit of poinsettia. They're unlikely to eat very much of it because of the taste, but not really a big problem in terms of having any real major poison response or anything like that. Um, so some people who have really sensitive skin do get a little bit of contact dermatitis or kind of a reddening of the skin or itchiness where they touch the sap of poinsettia. So just wash your hands after you handle it, and you won't make the face that the cat's making in that picture. One of my personal favorite holiday plants is holiday cactus. There are several different ones, so you're going to hear about Christmas cactuses and Thanksgiving cactuses and Easter cactuses and everything else. And there are several different species and varieties of these plants. Generally speaking, we're going to see a Thanksgiving cactus that's going to bloom between about November and December, so around Thanksgiving. And the flowers for that Thanksgiving cactus are going to be lavender or red or white, and occasionally kind of a salmon color, kind of an orangish pink. Christmas cactuses, on the other hand, tend to bloom in from December to about March. Sometimes they get called a Easter cactus if the if they're blooming particularly late. And I did have a question back about poinsettias. Will poinsettias bloom if you keep them all year? The bloom on a poinsettia is really very small and kind of indistinct. You can see it right there. That's all the bloom you get. In theory, I guess if you can keep it long enough, you may see flowers again. But we really tend to treat poinsettias as annuals more than anything else, just because they very rarely seem to survive for long enough to be maintained for another year. But in theory, they could put on those little flowers again, but they're just not very distinct. They're very small, kind of unassuming little yellow flowers. Getting back to the holiday cactuses, I often get asked, what's the difference between these plants? How can I tell them apart? And the easiest way is to look at the leaves. So on the Christmas cactuses, the ones that bloom from December to March, they tend to have really smooth leaves. Whereas with the Thanksgiving cactuses, you can kind of have a spikier leaf on them. So that's kind of an easy way to tell them apart. Just, in terms of care for Christmas cactuses, they do really like bright light. They like high humidity. So it's a great plant to put right in a window where it's going to be getting a lot of light. Put it on a window that's facing south or maybe east, so it gets a good bit of sunlight coming in through the window. But also pay attention that they do really like high humidity. So maybe having a container with a little bit of gravel and water in there, just to kind of keep up the humidity around the plant, could be really beneficial. If you do keep it too warm, it will prevent it from blooming. So you do want to keep it away from heat sources. And if it's blooming and you pick it up and move it around, Unfortunately, those blooms do have a tendency to kind of drop off on you. Um, it is kind of, kind of cactusy, so you do not want to ever really have fully wet soil. Just kind of keep it moist, and it does really well. And it really likes a coarse soil with very good drainage. So, pay attention to not water them too much. One of the things that I really like about Christmas cactuses is that they are a very easy plant to share. So you can take one of those little leaf sections and cut it kind of right in half, perpendicular, so that you have kind of one half of the leaf. Stick that down in some soil, and they root very easily. So it's a very easy plant. If somebody admires it, you can take out a little pot with some soil, take off one of those little leaf sections, and kind of a gift right there for people. Another really common plant we see around the holidays is amaryllis. We like amaryllis because of the really nice showy blooms that it has. Doesn't require any pre-cooling, so it will bloom really actively. Just keep those bulbs in a really nice, cool, kind of dry place if you're not planting them immediately. I have seen amaryllis kept in containers where there was no soil whatsoever. There's just a reservoir of water, the bulb, and then the flower comes up. So really kind of a no-nonsense plant. But you want to give it about an inch to an inch and a half of soil between the bulb and the side of the pot, so it doesn't require very much space in that pot. Doesn't require very good soil, so mulch or peat moss and vermiculite is perfectly okay. And just bury half the bulb in the soil, leave the other half exposed, water it, and just let it dry until the bulb sprouts. And then once that bulb starts to sprout, keep the soil moist throughout the growing season, and you'll have those really attractive flowers coming through. You do give it just a little bit of fertilizer about every 4 to 6 weeks. Plants need about 5 hours of direct sunlight a day, so they don't need full sun, but they do need to see some good light. And once the flower goes ahead and starts to fade on you, which the flowers do last a really good long time, cut the stalk about 2 inches above the bulb. And as the leaves start to wither, just go ahead and remove those. And you can store that bulb and use it again. So makes a really good thing where you can kind of keep that going. Do make sure you have good aeration and good drainage in that soil. Don't add too much nitrogen. That can cause the plant not to flower. And make sure that that plant has matured fully, has gone all the way and flowered and started to dry down before you store it again, because you do want to make sure that it's kind of taken in enough nutrients to be able to be planted again and bloom for the holidays. Cyclamen's another great plant for the holidays. All sorts of variation in the flowers that you can get: white, pink, and red, and lavender. My wife's favorite is the really deep purple ones. Really likes cool conditions, so it's a great plant to keep out on a patio or in a room where it's not actively heated. And it really just wants some kind of indirect light, so a little bit away from the window, or maybe in a north-facing window. And it will take temperatures down to about 40 degrees. So again, this is something that works really well in an area where it maybe not getting that direct heat. Just keep the soil moist. Again, kind of like Christmas cactuses, it's a good idea to have some extra humidity. So set that bare pot on a saucer that's filled with some gravel and water. And it's a good idea to kind of use lukewarm water and avoid dampening just right around the base of the plant. Kind of put the water around the outside of that pot when you water, and that will help maintain that plant in the pot. After the flowers fade, you can Just kind of give it a week fertilizer until you start to see new leaves coming in, and then those new leaves will fade. And then just gradually reduce down the amount of water that you're giving it. And that is going to allow the corm, which is, kind of like a bulb, but it doesn't have those, kind of leaf scales on it. You just let it dry down, let it rest in a cool, dry place for 6 to 12 weeks. Let it, ideally continue on through the warmest weather. And then you can replant that corm in some nice, good, fresh potting soil. Put 1/3 to 1/2 of the top portion, or put about 2/3 of it below the ground, about 1/3 sticking up. And that's going to go ahead and it's going to form a first leaf. You can begin watering it again and start fertilizing it about once a month. And it'll come right back and you'll have new flowers again. And I just include pictures of these old drawings and notes about plants that I find on the internet, just because I really like those old pictures. Norfolk Island pine is a kind of used as a house plant, as a living Christmas tree that we can keep in a pot. And they, as a little dwarf Christmas tree, they work really well, add a little bit of color. I always, kind of find it amusing that they're used as these miniature trees here, because in their native environment in Australia and the Norfolk Islands, they grow up to about 200 feet. So you can see a picture of that down there at the bottom with that really tall plant. There in the back is a Norfolk Island pine. But under the conditions we have, they're going to stay dwarfed and stay in that little pot. They do prefer good light, cooler day temperatures, night temperatures in and around 45 to 65. So perfect for a place where maybe you're not getting a whole lot of heat. Anything below 45 can start to damage the plant. And as the plant ages, you may see it start to lose needles. But all in all, you can just fertilize it through the growing season about every 2 to 3 weeks, and it tends to be pretty no nonsense. If you start to see yellow needle clusters on there, if it's getting little spots of yellow, that is a good sign that it is being overwatered. And you just need to dial back the water to keep it happy and healthy. Here's the plant that I constantly mispronounce. So Kalanchoe, I think I got it right this time. It is a succulent native to Africa and Madagascar. There are all sorts of different colors of flowers available. They retain their flowers for really kind of a ridiculous amount of time. And if you have a friend who constantly says that they have a brown thumb, this is a great plant to give them, because it just does not require a lot of care. It's drought resistant. You want to water it thoroughly, and then you can let it dry between waterings. It prefers medium light, but it'll tolerate other things. And again, daytime temperatures kind of on the cooler side, but 50, what it's going to experience right next to a window in most of our homes. But really nice flowers. It's going to keep them a long time, and just again, a plant that's really attractive without really requiring a lot of care. Jerusalem's cherry is not one that I see an awful lot of, but it is kind of a really attractive one. It is related to the tomato and nightshade. It's a kind of bushy evergreen shrub. Really likes to be in the full sun, so really needs to be in a window, again, with some southern or eastern exposure. Keep those temperatures down a little bit, because we don't want the fruit start dropping off. And really importantly, as attractive as those little fruit are, as much as they might look like cherries or look like little tomatoes, if you cut them open, you do not want to eat these. They are poisonous. You do want to some care for this. You want to mist it often. Keep the soil moist when the plant's actively growing, because lack of humidity can cause plant to drop leaves or drop blooms. Fertilize it, fairly frequently until the plant's just finished blooming. And then you can just plant it outside somewhere in the partial sun and it'll do okay. But temperatures really need to be above about 41 degrees for it to tolerate the conditions outdoors. So you may need to bring it in before we get a frost in the following year. If the plant's still in flower when you bring it inside, it does need a little bit of a tap to make sure that it's going to pollinate to get those flowers to form fruit. Kind of like a tomato, they just they'll self pollinate, but they do need a little bit of motivation just to help them out. A new favorite for me, this is Christmas rose. Sometimes you'll see it as Lenten rose. And there are several species that get called this. Helleborus niger is one of those, and I believe one of the others is Helleborus orientalis, that all kind of get classed as Christmas rose or Lenten rose. But a really attractive, nice flowers. It's not a kind of rose at all. It's a hellebore. Really beautiful winter blooming evergreen plant. Really nice white kind of blooms that face outwards. Sometimes they tip down just a little bit. Likes to be in indirect light or partial sun. Water it the same way we'd water most house plants. If the soil mix is dry to the touch, about an inch below the surface, you can water thin. Like everything, you want to avoid watering, overwatering. And if you're in a little bit of a cooler environment, this is something, and by which I mean you're not at the southernmost point of Mississippi. This is something that does perform really well out in the landscape after it's done its job as being a really attractive houseplant. Now, this one is my personal favorite. Of course, I do a lot of work with vegetables, and I love growing peppers. And so having ornamental peppers is just kind of a win for me. What I really like about them is I use ornamental peppers as little miniature Christmas trees because they came with the lights already on. So there's all sorts of variation. You might see a plant with several different colors of those peppers on it as they change colors as the fruit matures. And they make a really good house plant. They make a really good outdoor plant. They can actually last for several years. And you get all sorts of different really neat shapes in the fruit that they put on. My favorite are the kind that look like the old-fashioned incandescent Christmas bulbs. They do need full sun, really good bright light. They're a pepper plant, so you can kind of treat them like that. Water them regularly, let the soil dry out. And if you let the soil stay a little bit more dry, the plants will be a little bit more compact. And they just don't like wet soil. Really light fertilization, ideally in that 50 to 70 degree range. Most of our houses are going to be in if we measured the temperature over by a window anyway. One quick little warning about ornamental peppers: as tasty as they may look, and as much as I enjoy hot peppers, ornamental peppers tend to be pretty hot if you try to eat them. There are a few varieties that have less heat, like Chili Willy is a variety that's kind of a cooler pepper. But a lot of those varieties will just set your mouth on fire. So do be aware of that. And just a kind of a final thing to mention. Along with this, I'm going to mention kind of an advertisement for Dr. Jim Del Prince, who works out of Biloxi as our floral design person, our floral design expert. And the things he does with plant material, making decorations is just kind of mind-boggling. But there's a lot of plant material that we may have in our landscape that works really well for holiday decorations. Really simple to put those together. So holly plants or holly bows branches with berries on them make really fantastic decorations. Of course, the classic is mistletoe, so long as everyone in the house can agree to behave themselves. Pine cones are a kind of a really popular one to use in making wreaths or adding accents to designs. Ivy is a classic, and there's just a world of difference between this fresh, living plant matter and kind of the plastic decorations that you might otherwise see. So, I really advocate, go out there in your landscape and see what you might be able to use as a decoration. We have a host of magnolia leaves, and that really dark, shiny color with the brown underneath is really attractive. One of the best things I've seen, at least in my opinion, and it's gonna you like what you like, is one of the local garden club here, the Bay Waveland Garden Club, made a Christmas tree, and the topper for that Christmas tree was made out of dried okra pods. And there's a decoration here that kind of a mantelpiece that also makes use of that. But I thought that was just a really neat use of some plant material, and it looked really wonderful on that tree. So kind of keep in mind some of that, as well as the living plants that you may see. And that is just a really great opportunity that we have. So if you made it this far, thank you for being a part of this presentation. If you are watching this on YouTube, thank you again. And remember, you can ask questions down in the comment section, or you can hit that little subscribe button, and that'll let you know when I post new videos, because new videos will be coming out kind of on a weekly schedule. So with that, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and take any questions that you might have.